My name is Erica, and I am almost 50 years old. I have been married to my husband, James, for 25 long years. We built a simple life together, nothing fancy, nothing dramatic. Just a small, clean house, 2 children who grew up well, and years of ordinary routines. Our children are adults now, living their own lives, and the house that was once filled with noise and laughter has grown quiet. Too quiet. Now it is just the two of us, and one old sofa where James spends most of his days. He is 53, but his body and spirit often feel older. He rarely moves from that couch. He watches TV for hours, drinks a little too often, falls asleep, wakes up, and does the same thing again. That is his life. People sometimes joke about couch potatoes, but my husband is even more than that. He has become a man who has stopped trying. For years, I did everything else. I cooked the meals, cleaned the house, paid the bills, raised our children, and held the family together while James slowly disappeared into laziness and silence. I told myself it was fine. I told myself this was marriage, this was normal, this was my duty. But a quiet heaviness has been growing inside me, a weight I can no longer ignore. From the outside, our life still looks peaceful. But inside, something is breaking. Something has been breaking for a long time. And deep down, I know that one day, something will finally snap. Most mornings began the same way. I woke up alone, the other side of the bed cold and untouched because James had fallen asleep on the couch again the night before. I would make myself a cup of tea, listen to the quiet house, and start the long list of chores that had become my routine for decades. I cleaned the kitchen, did the laundry, swept the floors, and planned out dinner before going to the supermarket. When our children were small, my days were even fuller, packing lunches, helping with homework, driving them to school, calming them when they cried. Back then, I always believed that once they grew older, James and I would finally have time to reconnect. I imagined long walks, quiet evenings together, maybe even traveling once in a while. But those dreams faded with time. As the years passed, James became more and more attached to the sofa. Whenever I asked him for help, even something small, he gave the same answer: "I'm tired. Leave me alone." He said it so often that the words began to feel like a wall between us. Our home still looked peaceful from the outside. A clean porch, trimmed bushes, warm lights glowing through the windows at night. But inside, the silence between us grew heavier. The house was full of memories but empty of emotion. We lived under the same roof, shared the same meals, and slept in the same home, yet somehow felt like strangers. I tried to tell myself this was normal after many years of marriage. That maybe all couples eventually settled into quiet routines. But deep down, I knew something had been slowly wearing away, something I was too afraid to admit. One Saturday morning, everything changed. I had planned to go shopping and was halfway out the door when I realized I had forgotten my bank card in another jacket. I turned back to the bedroom, walking quietly down the hall. As I passed the living room, I heard James's voice, soft, warm, sweeter than anything he had said to me in years. "Hi, honey." "Yes, darling. I miss you too." I froze. My breath caught in my throat. James had never used words like honey or darling with me, not once in 25 years of marriage. He never called me anything but Erica or hey. Hearing those words in his voice felt like a punch to the stomach. Then he added, almost shyly, tomorrow evening, yes. I can't wait. My hands began to shake. My heart beat so loudly I could hear it in my ears. 25 years of routine, frustration, and silence, and suddenly this? James, the man who didn't have the energy to pick up his socks or walk to the mailbox, somehow had the strength for this? For someone else? I stepped into the living room. He turned around, still holding the phone, and the color drained from his face. Who is this, honey? I asked, my voice trembling but sharp. He opened his mouth, closed it again, then whispered, she is my woman. My heart shattered. My knees felt weak. I stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing. Your woman, I said, a painful laugh escaping me. You mean your mistress? He nodded. Yes. Sometimes I see her. All the years of cooking for him, cleaning after him, supporting him, tolerating his laziness, suddenly felt like foolish sacrifices. She makes me feel alive, he said quietly. Alive. A word that felt like a slap across my face. I gave you 25 years of my life, I said, tears burning in my eyes. And you need another woman to feel alive? He looked down, ashamed. I'm sorry, Erica. Please. But I was done. I pointed at the door. Call her. Tell her you're coming today. Not tomorrow. Today. I don't want you here. He tried to protest, to explain, to apologize, but I turned away. The pain was too heavy, too sharp. Eventually, he picked up his keys and left, closing the door softly behind him. The house, always filled with his lazy presence, suddenly felt enormous and empty. I sat at the kitchen table, buried my face in my hands, and cried. 25 years, gone in a moment. Yet beneath the crushing sadness, something small, almost invisible, stirred inside me. A tiny spark of something I hadn't felt in years. The first fragile hint of freedom. The house felt unnaturally quiet after James walked out. For years, his constant presence on the couch had annoyed me, exhausted me, and drained the joy from our marriage. Yet somehow, without him there, the silence felt heavier than I expected. I sat alone in the living room, staring at the empty space where he always lay, and the weight of 25 years crashed over me like a wave. I cried until my chest hurt. I cried for the betrayal, for the years I had given, for the woman I had become, the woman who cooked, cleaned, worked, raised children, and carried a marriage entirely on her shoulders while her husband slowly disappeared into laziness. I cried because I realized I had spent so long being ignored that I stopped expecting anything better. Memories flooded my mind, our wedding day, the early years when we held hands everywhere we went, the laughter of our children when they were little, the dreams we once had of traveling together, growing old side by side. All of it felt like a distant life that belonged to someone else. And beneath the heartbreak was something deeper, a quiet fear. What if no one ever loves me again? What if I grow old alone? What if I made a mistake by pushing him out? But then another voice rose inside me, small, trembling, but determined. I deserve better. For the first time, I allowed myself to question the life I had accepted for so long. Did I truly want to spend the rest of my life with a man who never tried, never cared, never respected me? Was staying with him loyalty, or fear? A few days later, the emotional storm reached its peak. James's mistress came to our house. I saw her walking up the driveway, and my heart pounded, but I refused to hide. I stepped outside before she could knock. She looked surprised, almost guilty. I stood tall and said calmly, "Leave my husband. He is married to me. Do not see him again." She didn't argue. She simply lowered her eyes and walked away. Moments later, James appeared behind her, trying to explain, trying to soften the damage. But as I listened to him stumble through excuses, I realized something important. This man had stopped valuing me a long time ago. His affair was not the beginning of our problems, only the moment I finally saw them clearly. The pain sharpened into clarity. The betrayal became a mirror, showing me the truth I had avoided for years. And in that moment, the decision formed inside me with absolute certainty. I would divorce him. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't anger. It was awakening. After years of living in the shadow of a lazy, careless partner, I was finally choosing myself. In the days that followed, I forced myself to take the first steps toward rebuilding my life. My hands trembled when I called a lawyer for the first time. I had never imagined I would one day learn about divorce papers, splitting property, or legal rights after 25 years of marriage. It felt frightening, unfamiliar, and overwhelming, but somewhere beneath the fear, there was also a quiet sense of strength. Each conversation with the lawyer made me stand a little straighter, breathe a little deeper. I finally gathered the courage to call my daughter and tell her everything. My voice shook as I spoke, but she listened without judgment. Then she said the words I didn't know I needed. "Mom, you don't need a man like this. We love you. We're here for you." Hearing her voice filled something inside me that had felt empty for too long. Slowly, I began creating a new daily routine. I cleaned the house, not out of duty, but as a way to open a new chapter. I moved furniture, threw away old things James had left lying around, and reclaimed the space as my own. I cooked meals just for myself. I took long walks without asking anyone for permission. I allowed myself to feel sad when the memories came, but I didn't let the sadness drown me the way it once did. Living alone was strange at first, but it also brought a sense of freedom I hadn't expected. There were moments of loneliness, of course, but there were also moments of peace, real peace, not the quiet emptiness I used to feel sitting next to a man who had stopped seeing me. By the time the divorce papers were ready to be signed, I realized something important. I wasn't just separating from James. I was reclaiming my own life. It wasn't a perfect ending. There was no sudden joy, no magical happiness. But there was hope. And hope, I learned, was enough to begin again. Now I understand that love cannot survive without respect. For years, I tried to hold a marriage together by myself, believing that patience and sacrifice were enough. But love is not something one person can carry alone. It needs effort from both sides, attention from both hearts, and respect shared equally. Without that, love slowly fades until only routine remains. Sometimes we stay too long with someone who stopped caring long ago. We stay because of fear, because of habit, because of memories of who they used to be. I stayed because I believed loyalty meant enduring pain in silence. But silence does not heal anything. It only buries the truth deeper until it finally explodes. I learned that starting over is scary, but living in pain is worse. Walking away from a 25-year marriage felt like stepping into darkness, yet leaving was the first step toward light. I discovered that my life did not end with his betrayal. In fact, it began again. This experience taught me the value of self-respect, the courage it takes to say, enough, and the truth that marriage requires effort from both partners, not just one. Happiness has no room for laziness, neglect, or emotional abandonment. Divorce is not a failure when the love is gone, it is a release. A chance to rebuild, to breathe, to remember who you are outside of someone else's shadow. My story does not end with a perfect fairy tale. It ends with freedom, strength, and the quiet promise of a better tomorrow. If you liked this story, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for learning English through stories with us, and we hope to see you in the next lesson. If you liked this story, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for learning English through stories with us, and stay tuned for more inspiring lessons.